There are currently more than 11 million illegal immigrants in America, and one study suggests they may be costing taxpayers $113 billion a year due to various welfare benefits that they receive. Famed economist Milton Friedman once said, we'd like to quote him here on this show, "There is no doubt that free and open immigration is the right policy in a libertarian state. But in a welfare state, it is a different story. The supply of immigrants will become infinite." The economics behind immigration is very complex. To help us break it all down, Reason Magazine editor-at-large Matt Welch and Trump Hispanic Advisory Council member Steve Cortez. Steve, starting with you. Was Milton Friedman, was he right?
Listen, you might as well call him Saint Milton as far as I'm concerned. He's right about almost everything he ever said, and I really learned most of my economics from him as my tutor, effectively, my online tutor. And listen, I think in this case he's particularly right. As a free market guy, as an Hispanic, I absolutely love immigration. I'm the son of an immigrant. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for America's welcoming of immigrants from around the world. And by the way, it's not just because of a good heart. It's also because it's smart policy, what it's done for America. When you look at amazing enterprises that were started by either immigrants or the children of immigrants, Google, Tesla, Apple. Having said all of that, we as a people, we do get to determine how much immigration is appropriate for us. And I think this is an important point. Sadly, we have creeped ever more toward a welfare state where there are almost as many people receiving government benefits as there are working. And in that kind of a scenario, I think we have to be particularly careful about slowing immigration. That's the challenge. I mean, Matt, the $113 billion figure I just referenced, I mean, if you look into that, what you see now is that nearly half of, actually, forgive me, 62% of illegal immigrant-headed households have at least one major welfare program. So that's more than half, and there's a few of them right there. You get school lunch, you got Medicaid, housing, WIC, SNAP, and all of this costs money. So, yes, on the one hand, as Steve points out, there's something truly tremendous and important for economic growth that goes hand in hand with immigration, but you got to make sure that those immigrants don't become a liability for the country in the way of all these welfare benefits.
Well, we should point out that that study was conducted by the Federation for American Immigration Reform, which is a restrictionist group, and the study itself has come under repeated attacks on methodological grounds by any number of organizations.
Okay, well, this other one from the Center for Immigration Studies shows you that 62% of illegal immigrant-headed households use, and we've got similar studies from Heritage, but I know you're going to go after them too.
No,
but anyway,
I mean it's
so let's talk about the theory of this, the principle. If, in fact, you're going to argue that it's good to bring in people to this country, and I'd support that as well, don't you also have to ensure that those people, though, are not going to become a liability on society, but rather are going to help grow this overall economy by therefore not being a drain via these various welfare programs?
As a matter of fact, that insight was baked into the welfare reform package of 1996, which was passed in large parts due to the Milton Friedman quote back in the day. They said if you are a legal immigrant here, you still do not have access to welfare benefits. The only thing that you have access to, and it's a real thing, especially on a localized level, is if you have to go to the emergency room, you'll still be admitted. And your kids, if they are born here and of school age, they will be admitted into public school. But other than that, you are not eligible for federal welfare transfers until you get to a point where you can apply to citizenship, which is 5 years down in the future. That single move had an incredible impact on the jobs ratio and the anti-poverty ratio of immigrants who came to this country. Once they weren't eligible for the same kind of welfare.
The U.S. government has set new standards for obtaining permanent residency and U.S. citizenship as part of the Trump administration's efforts to reduce not only illegal but legal immigration as well. The goal is to ensure that new immigrants won't be a drain on public finances. Kim Da-mi has more.
The Trump administration unveiled a new rule on Monday that could deny visas or permanent residency to hundreds of thousands of people for being too poor. The new policy would reject applicants for temporary or permanent visas who fail to meet income standards or who receive public assistance, including food stamps, welfare, and public housing. Coming into force on October 15th, the change aims to ensure that immigrants are self-sufficient, according to the administration.
Through the public charge rule, President Trump's administration is reinforcing the ideals of self-sufficiency and personal responsibility. ensuring that immigrants are able to support themselves and become successful here in America.
The 837-page rule seeks to redefine what it means to be a public charge and who's likely to be one under U.S. immigration law. The current regulations put in place back in 1996 say the term public charge is defined as someone who is primarily dependent on government assistance, meaning it supplies more than half of their income. From now on, wealth, education, age, and English language skills will take on greater importance in the process of obtaining a green card. Showing higher levels of income is now much more necessary for visa applicants. Immigrant advocates argue that the rule would discriminate against those from poorer countries and eventually prompt legal residents to give up needed public aid. AP reported over 380,000 out of the 540,000 applicants every year will have to face the new evaluations. And according to the Migration Policy Institute, more than half of all family-based green card applications will be denied under the new rules. 김다미, 아리랑 뉴스.
Well, some local families say they feel punished because they are poor and immigrants. They're reacting to a major policy change for green card applicants, which limits benefits to legal immigrants, including Medicaid, food stamps, even housing assistance. The Trump administration announced the new rules, saying the move will increase self-reliance and protect taxpayers. NBC4's Ted Chen live in the Westlake District for us with more on the impact of these changes. Ted.
Carolyn, both immigration rights advocates and the administration agree on one thing. This could have a huge impact, basically changing the rules by which applications for green cards are evaluated. Green cards, the method by which people with temporary visas apply for legal permanent residency. We spoke by phone to a woman who identified herself as Gabby, who says she lost her job because of a delay in her DACA renewal and had to apply for Medi-Cal benefits when she got pregnant. Now she's afraid for her and other immigrants that the benefits might come back to haunt her.
It makes me really sad. I kind of want to cry right now. Like, it's just horrible, you know? We just keep getting attacked left or right.
The Trump administration says it will look more closely at immigrants like Gabby who are aiming for legal permanent residency, wanting to make sure they aren't too reliant on government benefits. The goal, it says, is to make sure people are more self-sufficient and not relying on taxpayers.
President Trump's administration is reinforcing the ideals of self-sufficiency and personal responsibility, ensuring that immigrants are able to support themselves and become successful here in America.
But immigration advocates say the new rules are an attack on working immigrants who are poor and more likely to be people of color. Joseph Vieira is Chirla's Director of Policy and Advocacy.
This is essentially changes to a system of points in which we only accept those who are educated and those who are wealthy.
A lot of people need these benefits, and they don't necessarily use them because they want to take advantage of the government, but because they need them, right? You never know. Some people lose their jobs.
The administration says these new rules are not meant to stem the flow of legal immigration, which it points out continues to increase. Reporting live from the Westlake District, Ted Chen, NBC4 News. Back to you in Universal City.
New numbers tonight show 39 million Social Security numbers have been stolen, and many of them used by illegal immigrants to work in the United States. The Immigration Reform Law Institute says the issue stems from an Obama-era decision to stop the notification of employers if one of their workers' identities doesn't match up with the Social Security number they used on a W-2 tax form. That change came after President Obama gave amnesty to some 700,000 illegal immigrant children. Joining us tonight, former federal prosecutor, author of the book License to Lie, Sidney Powell. Sidney, great to have you with us.
Thank you, Lou. Welcome back.
Thank you. Let me start with this decision not to notify employers of a mismatch on W-2s and Social Security numbers and accounts, which is fundamentally a clue that you've got a problem with the either a bookkeeping problem or you've got a fraud problem, one or the other, right?
Exactly, and it's a problem that affected 39 million American citizens, whether they knew it or not.
So it's an absolute outrage that the Obama administration stopped the practice of notification. That's something that should be done automatically anytime that issue arises. And this Department of Justice could start making a difference by cracking down on those violations and prosecuting
government.
Okay, let's get to this story. It's about welfare fraud, and it's a big problem. California is one of the states that's been saying for years, hey, stop attacking us. We are cracking down on welfare fraud. Welfare fraud nationwide cheats taxpayers out of $137 billion annually. That's an estimate. But now, California under fire. An illegal immigrant there, living in San Diego, stole a total of $361,000 from welfare over nearly 30 years. He's 66-year-old Andres Avelino Anduega. He's an illegal from Tijuana, Mexico, and here's how he did it. He admitted in court that he stole the identity of a Texas resident named Abraham Riojos way back in 1980. How'd he do it? He used a fake birth certificate. He then applied for a California driver's license. He got a Social Security number and a passport. I mean, this raises the question again, can California stop fraud in its welfare and voter rolls, Congressman?
Well, apparently not. And this is the whole issue I don't understand as to why elected officials in states like California and elsewhere are standing with illegal immigrants as opposed to American citizens first and making sure that that we put the rights of the American citizens over those that are here illegally in the illegal immigration status. It just seems like we're seeing this consistent theme. We're going to protect the illegal immigrants, and the American citizens and the taxpayers can go second in line.
And Congressman, I mean, he goes by the name Anduega. Authorities question if that's even his real name. He stole California state Medicaid payments, food stamps, Social Security disability benefits, and he's been arrested for illegal weapons, cocaine, and DUI. Your reaction?
Exactly why I do not understand why we can't come together and protect American citizens first and then have a conversation about those that want to come to this country legally and get a system that works. Because also, it's not just the taxpayers that hurt here. Think about the American citizens that are relying on these programs and need these programs. That's money that's taken from them that could be going to them lawfully and legally and rightfully so as they go through the hardship of life.